Wondering how you can become better at running your business? Entrepreneurship can be stressful. There's too much to do and not enough time. If you're isolated in your daily decisions, have no fear. Success and balance are possible. Welcome to the Small Business Answer Man podcast, where you master the art of running a successful business using practical advice from experts who want to help you succeed. Now, here's your host, Gary Wilbers.
Welcome. We're glad to have you back for the Small Business Answer Man podcast. I told you this first quarter we were going to set up some great guests so you think about your business and how you operate and run it. And the key is really not just to operate and run it, but to bring home more profit. And today's guest I have with us is going to help us in that area. But Rocky, would you share with our listeners today, what problem will you help solve for them?
Exactly what you said. I help businesses to have increased cash flow, more profit, and continue to grow in an appropriate way.
So you know this is going to be a great podcast because as all business owners and entrepreneurs, we want more profit in our business. So Rocky Lalvani serves as Chief Profitability Adviser for business owners. He teaches them how to ensure to get paid and make profit a priority. As a certified Profit First professional, he implements Mike Michalowicz Profit First system. We changed the accounting formula of sales minus expenses equals profit to sales minus profit equals expenses. This ensures profit comes first. P.S. though, it's not about money at all costs. People come before money. Rocky, it is great to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Gary. Excited to be here with you today.
I will tell you, Rocky, I love this book. It's one of the books I've picked up, Profit First, and I've read and I share with some of my clients. So I love what you're doing. And then I've got connected to your podcast because we got connected through a mastermind. And I just love what you're doing on your podcast and sharing with them. I said, I've got to get Rocky on because I want my listeners to be able to hear from him. So first, thank you for doing that. But let's start off with the basics because not everyone we know has read Profit First. So can you share some of those principles of Profit First?
Sure. Well, let's take a step back. Mike Michalowicz, who's the author of the book, is a serial entrepreneur. And he had a bunch of companies in the late 90s. He sold out, walked away with his big payday, thought he was the smartest business guy in the world. You've probably heard that story or seen some of those people. I think within 2 to 3 years, literally, he was bankrupt. Like they were coming for the keys to the house and the car, and he went through that roller coaster ride. And of course, you know, when we go through that, we're not all smiles and giggles at that point. We go through a little bit of tough times, a little bit of self-reflection. And during that period of self-reflection, he was like, well, how did we get this so wrong? And how did we screw it up? And he realized what you talked about, which is the equation. We have the wrong equation for profit. And if you think about it, you know, you started by saying, hey, everybody's focused on profit. The reality is very few people are focused on profit in small business. They're all focused on top line revenue because it's an easy metric. How much did I sell today? Oh, I'm a 7-figure business owner. You see these people and, you know, if you're not there, you're like, oh my God, they're doing so much better than me. But when you look behind the curtain and you take a look at what's going on, most business owners aren't paying themselves. They aren't necessarily profitable and they're struggling. And I think a lot of it is just the way that the systems were set up. So accounting was set up for accounting people. It wasn't set up for business owners, right? It's just not. And what Mike did was create a cash flow system that works the way business owners work. And so if you're like most business owners, let's face the facts. How many times a day do you check your bank account? Right? Is there cash? Is there no cash? Do I need to sell or can I spend? And that becomes the mentality. And so Mike built the Profit First system to just kind of leverage those habits and help people figure out what's going on in their business without having to open up their accounting software.
Well, what I love what you share there, Rocky, is really the challenge of every business owner because we've all went through those peaks and valleys. Maybe we didn't go bankrupt, but we've had times that it's payroll and there's not enough cash in the account to pay that account. And I always tell people, one of the greatest worries of a business owner is, yeah, you worry about yourself, but when you employ people, that becomes a different level of responsibility that most people don't understand. And that's why I love what this talks about and what Profit First shares, is because we have to think about profit first, besides just saying, because we create too much overhead then, and we create challenges for us. And it becomes, a lot of people are ended their year. We're early in 2023 and they've ended their year, and all they're doing is waiting from their accountant or their bookkeeper and they're going to flip to that back page and see, did we make any money last year or not? Well, this has a little different philosophy. Go ahead.
Well, it does. And that's usually the conversation. So at the end of the year, right, the accountant says, hey, congratulations, you were profitable. Here's how much you made, which causes two questions to come up, right? The first is, where is that money? Right. Yeah. And the accountants laugh and they go, you spent it. And the second question is, how am I supposed to pay that tax bill? So there's another guy in our mastermind who literally, their accountant called them and 3 weeks late because they didn't want to have this conversation, right? So here's the dirty secret. Accountants will tell you to spend money so that you don't have to pay taxes, so you think they're great, because otherwise you yell at them. So the accountant calls them and says, I really didn't want to call you. I didn't want to have this conversation. He's like, what's wrong? And she's like, you owe a ton in taxes. And he says, yeah, I know. We did really well last year. We did a lot better than previous years. And that's the other thing. If you're not having constant conversations with your accountant about how sales and expenses are going, you're going to get a surprise tax bill at the end. So he's like, how much do I owe? And she's like, it's pretty much 6 figures. He's like, no problem. I'll stroke a check and drop it off tomorrow. She said, nobody has ever said that in the 20 years I've been doing this. Mike used Profit First, and he was allocating for money for taxes all year. He actually said he had more money in his tax account than he owed for taxes. So he got a little bit of bonus himself. And that's basically what this system does. Whenever money comes into your business, you give it a job and you send it to do that job. So if you're supposed to be profitable, right? We didn't go into business to lose money, I hope, correct?
Right.
Yeah, right. So let's take our profit up first and let's separate it and let's put it in a separate bank account called profit. And then we should get paid. I know most business owners pay themselves last, but you deserve to be rewarded for what you do. If you can't take care of your home life and take care of your home bills, you're not going to show up at work the best you can be. So let's put money aside for ourselves. And then just like Mike, let's put money aside for the taxes, because it's the government's money. It's not yours. Once it's set aside for taxes, it's easy to do. And then what we have left is what we truly have to spend after we paid ourselves, after we're profitable, and after we cover taxes. And by giving each dollar a job, putting it into a separate bank account, when you go look at your operating expense bank account, you know how much is truly there to spend. You're not spending your profit accidentally. You're not accidentally spending your paycheck, and you're not spending that money that belongs to the IRS.
Well, and it goes to the old philosophy is, if it's all in one account, what's the challenge that creates for us? And that's one thing I like about this. It talks about putting them in separate accounts. So you have that. So like you said, when it comes tax time, you're not surprised if it's 6 figures. You have that money already put aside for that area.
You do. And then when tax time comes and you say, where is that profit? You can go, well, there it is in that account. And I can actually see that profit. And there's other people in our mastermind who use Profit First. And one of them, when we hit COVID, he looked at his profit account and said, oh, I got 18 months of runway. I can get through COVID, right? And so it takes you off the roller coaster. Look, we're still going to get smacked around with business. It's life. But when you have extra cash and you have the ability to make choices and to pivot, you'll figure your way through this. It's the reality of it. This is all based on 2 principles, one that a lot of people haven't heard of and one that many have. So Parkinson's law basically says a business will use all the time and money allocated to it. So think about it. If you want to do something, you're gonna start a new location, or you're building a new website, or you're doing something. What are the two questions you get? They are, how much, what's your budget, and what's your time frame? Whatever the budget and time frame is, that's what it's going to be, right? If someone comes in, you say, well, I have $100,000 budget and I need this done in 6 months. You think they're going to come to you and go, oh, well, we're going to do it for 20,000 and we'll get it done next week. No. But if you say to them, my budget's 20,000 and I need it done in 2 weeks, they'll figure out a way to get it done. And people say, you know what? And so the question is how does this happen? Everyone's heard of the 80-20 rule. 20% of what you do creates 80% of the results. 40% of what you do creates 96% of the results. So that means 60% of what you're doing is essentially useless. So why don't we get rid of the 60%? That requires thinking time. That requires you to think about your business instead of just grinding in your business. If you're grinding, that means you're not being efficient. You got to step back and get a bigger question. And here's the dirty little secret. There's another book called Islands of Profit in a Sea of Red Ink. It's written by an MIT professor. He looked at large corporations. So we're talking S&P 500 level. He said 20 to 30% of what the companies do provide over 100% of the profit. Wait, what?
Wow.
He goes 30 to 40% of what they do lose money. And the remainder breaks even. But nobody's going to raise his hand and say, my department's losing money. No CEO is going to go to Wall Street and go, hey, we're cutting sales by 50% and doubling profits, because Wall Street's going to kill them. And so these are the things that we run against. And the reality is this happens everywhere. You've got to take the time to understand the math of your business. And every business is a math equation. The better you understand the math equation of your business, everything from, and this starts at the beginning with number of leads coming in, or website traffic, or people walking in the door, or phone calls. How many of those convert? What's your average sale? How many times do people rebuy? That gives you your total revenue. And then what's my overhead? What's my cost of goods? What's all of that? And that brings you down to net profit. And then how much is going out for debt? How much am I taking out as the business owner? How much is in accounts receivable? People are like, I sold all this stuff I grew, but where's my cash? It's all in accounts receivable. If you don't have a good program for all of that, then you struggle. And so these are all the different dials that you need to understand in your business and how to manage them.
Well, and the challenge for a business owner is they're supposed to be an expert on all of them. And let's be honest, for a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, finance was not their number one thing. They like to create, they like to produce, they like to make, they like to be creative. So the challenge is you talked about this earlier, and I think what a great time to be saying that, because with it being early in 2023, of taking time and slowing down and looking at all the pieces of your puzzle of your business and putting those pieces together and really looking at this area of finance and your financials and looking at those different areas. And what a great way. I think one of the suggestions I would give, I'm sure you would too, pick up the book if you haven't and read it, or listen to it if you prefer the Audible version, and listen to it, and then really kind of dig into that area. And I know you have ways that you can help business owners if they get overwhelmed on how they can kind of really get that first simple step to get started.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of ways. And on my podcast, I actually go through every chapter of the book. I don't read it. What I do is I give my input on it. So kind of expanding on each chapter to make it easy. The biggest thing we tell, and so Mike goes on stages all over the country. And people, he's got this whole fan club. It's kind of funny because they all come up to him. Oh, I love the book. I love this. I love that. And Mike's first question is, did you implement? And they're like, well, I didn't get to it yet. Right? People don't take action. And I think that's the biggest critical step. Take action. And so the biggest thing we tell people is, if this is overwhelming to you, just do one thing. Open up one bank account. And in that bank account, every month, take 1% of your sales revenue and just set it aside. That's it. Give it a couple months and start to see what that looks like. And then start to ask yourself, hey, maybe I should spend a little bit more time focused on this, because you won't miss the money and you'll be surprised at how quickly it grows. Actually, I was talking with one of my clients the other day, and we talked about, I said, if you can pick up 2% in your cost of goods and 2% in your overhead, which is not a lot, right? 4%,
Right.
your profits will go up like triple. And that's pretty impressive. When you start to see how little changes make big impacts, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it becomes that old compound effect of what happens with just little things you do. So business owners, we're talking to you now. You're getting excited a little bit, but you have to take action, as Rocky talked about. And one of the first things I would tell you is he has a podcast. And, I listen to Rocky's podcast and I'll recommend it highly to him. It's Profit Answer Man. And it'll start giving you, and go back to his first episodes, because as he told you, he doesn't read those chapters to you, but he shares with what is covered in the chapters in the book. And it just becomes a great reinforcing effort. So Rocky, I really appreciate you sharing that. Also, you have a website. I think it's profitfirst.com that they can check out. And if they want to learn more information,
profitcomesfirst.com.
profitcomesfirst.com. So we'll have that in show notes. So go to smallbusinessanswerman.biz, B-I-Z, and we'll have all that in show notes so you're easily able to access that information. Rocky, is there anything else you'd like to share before I ask you kind of my small business tip that you would give small business owners?
Yes. If you guys like this podcast, would you do me a favor? Do Gary a favor? Give it a like, give it a share, give him a little love, help him out. He's doing all of this for you for free. So be nice and say thank you that way.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And that's great advice. And we've just changed the name. So it's one of the first podcasts since we've made the name change. And I'll be honest, I was motivated with the name change. Actually, I haven't told Rocky this, because of his name. That's why it became the Small Business Answer Man. I don't have all the answers, but I know I can find people like Rocky. They can help my business owners and entrepreneurs find that. So my last question to you, Rocky, is when we think about a small business tip, what would you share with our listeners, a small business tip that would help them?
At the end of the day, you have to understand your financials. You don't have to be an accountant. You don't have to be a math major. Most of the stuff that we talk about is third grade math. It's not that hard. There's plenty of books. There's plenty of resources. Understand your financials so you can make wiser decisions and be more profitable. You work hard. You deserve to be rewarded for this. And that's just the bottom line. We want to see small businesses thrive.
Yeah, and that's our goal. I mean, we're both doing this because it's our passion for small business owners. I've had 13 different businesses. Not all of them have succeeded. I had some of those failures too. And the main reason was I didn't worry about the profit. I just saw a lot of expenses come up, and we paid till it was time to say, okay, we can't keep doing that. So small business owners, just take the first step. Listen to Rocky's podcast, pick up the book, whatever it is for you early this year, and then dig into your financials. So as you get those and you're sending them over to the accountant, really get to where you understand that and give yourself some time and breathing room to really set that up. So Rocky, I appreciate you being on so early in the year, because I think we can help set that mindset to say, I want to do something different this year. And why don't we put profit first versus at the end of the quarter? You can't do much when April 15th comes and you look at the bottom line and you've got either a big tax bill or you don't have enough money to cover because your expenses are too big. So this becomes a great message there. So thanks for joining us today on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Small business owners, our goal is to give you different viewpoints that you can take a look and really diagnose in your business what you need. Remember, you don't go to a doctor and hope they know what's wrong with you. You want them to diagnose you. So that's what you're looking at. So that's what our goal is in this podcast, to give you those different viewpoints to be able to do that. Remember, we're the Small Business Answer Man podcast. This is one of those that I would love, if you know another business owner, share this podcast with them because it may help them. I'm looking forward to being back next week with another great guest. Please join us. Make it a great day.
That's all the time we have for this week. To continue your journey, head over to smallbusinessanswerman.biz to access the tools and resources mentioned in today's show. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with someone who would benefit from listening. That's smallbusinessanswerman.biz. Until next time, remember, when you find the right solutions, your business grows and you get your time back.